In April 1974, Simon Wiesenthal, head of the Jewish Documentation Center in Vienna, and Robert Kempner, who had been the deputy prosecutor of the Nuremberg trials, managed to convince West German authorities to start an investigation into one Horst Gerhard Bender. Bender had been supreme SS and police judge on the personal staff of the Reichsführer SS Heinrich Himmler, and had risen to the rank of SS-Oberführer. Wiesenthal told the Jewish Telegraph Agency in 1977 that he had informed German authorities of a legal brief by Bender to Heinrich Himmler, in which he said that the shooting of Jews without prior order was not a crime if the shootings were done for purely political reasons. On the 29th of April 1977, German authorities told Wiesenthal that evidence was not sufficient to continue legal proceedings, and thus the by then 72-year-old Bender, who was still working as a lawyer in Stuttgart, was no longer the subject of a criminal investigation. So who was the lawyer who gave Himmler a legal opinion that the killing of Jews for political reasons was not a crime? I'll try and answer that one in this video. Horst Gerhard Bender was born here on the 24th of February 1905. This is Lyck in East Prussia, then only around 20 kilometers by road from the border of Russian-occupied Poland. Lyck is today Ełk in northeastern Poland, part of the attractive Masurian Lake District. The population of Lyck in 1910 was 13,428 people, which included 365 Polish and 534 Masurian native speakers. Although the Red Army deliberately destroyed much of the town on capturing it in January 1945, we can still see a lot of the German heritage in residential buildings, the main church, water tower, and other places. The Crusader castle is still very much as anyone would have remembered it from the beginning of the 20th century. It's now owned by a private company and is being renovated. The renovations, I understand, have been going on for a very long time. After completing school, Horst Bender studied law and political science at the universities of Breslau and Königsberg. Once this was finished, he returned to Lyck to work as a lawyer. East Prussia had been separated from the rest of Germany in order to create the Polish corridor in the Treaty of Versailles. The area around Lyck had been subject to a plebiscite in July 1920, where the locals could choose to be part of either East Prussia or of Poland. In Lyck, only 7 people voted for Poland, showing that even Polish and Masurian speakers preferred the security of being in Germany rather than in a new Catholic state, which was then at war with Soviet Russia, and indeed could be destroyed at any moment by the new Soviet Russia. As it happened, within less than 13 years, many of them could have had cause to regret their votes. One person who did not initially regret the result of the referendum was Horst Bender. He joined the Nazi Party on the 1st of August 1932, membership number 1261870. He joined just after the election, which gave the National Socialists 37% of the vote in Germany. After power was surrendered to the Nazis by the conservatives around President Paul von Hindenburg, Bender joined the General SS in early 1933, SS number 122746. Bender joined the SS Verfügungstruppe as a full-time officer in 1937. This was a barracks-based paramilitary special unit of the SS, which had been originally set up to be a combat force, equipped with small arms, used to terrorize political opponents, and deployed as from February 1933 as auxiliary police. Once political opposition in Germany had been destroyed, the SS Verfügungstruppe was gradually integrated into the Waffen-SS. In the SS Verfügungstruppe, Bender was a member of the inspector's staff. From here, on the 15th of August 1939, he was appointed to the main office of the SS Court, which had been set up on the 1st of June 1939. Its initial area of responsibility was to deal with disciplinary cases and grievances for the Reichsführer SS. It was headed by SS-Oberführer Paul Schafer, based in Munich at Karlstrasse 10. You may have seen some of the videos that I made on the SS punishment camp at Danzig-Matzkow, which was one of the locations to where those found guilty of offences could be sent. The main office was responsible for criminal matters for the entire SS and police area. It was on equal footing with the Wehrmacht's martial courts as a special jurisdiction. Later, jurisdiction was extended to include German and foreign civilians for all crimes committed in the operational area, and from January 1945, even to include all prisoners of war. On the 6th of May 1941, the Reichsführer SS Command Staff was created. This was the command body for mobile killing units, which included such units as the 2 SS Infantry Brigades and the SS Cavalry Brigade. On the 30th of June 1941, the strength of the command staff was 18,438 men. By the end of 1941, at least 85,000 people, mainly, but not all Jewish, had fallen victim to the murderous campaigns of the command staff. In 1942 and 1943, its role was increasingly that of fighting partisans and gangs under the higher SS and police leader for Central Russia, Erich von dem Bach-Zelewski. This continued to involve the widespread murder of Jews. Head of Department 3, the Judicial Department, was SS-Oberführer Horst Bender. Whilst on the command staff of the Reichsführer SS, Bender became Supreme SS and Police Judge in the personal staff of the Reichsführer SS. On the 18th of September 1942, Bender was stationed at the field headquarters of Himmler at Zhytomyr in the occupied Soviet Union. On that day, there was a meeting attended by, amongst others, the Reichsführer SS Heinrich Himmler, Reich Minister of Justice Otto Georg Therak, State Secretary Dr. Kurt Rottenberger, SS Gruppenführer Bruno Streckenbach, and Obersturmbannführer Horst Bender. Streckenbach was there to represent the RSHA, the Reich Security Main Office, as Heydrich had been assassinated 3 months earlier and Kaltenbrunner had not yet been appointed. Bender said that he was there to support the Reichsführer SS, Heinrich Himmler. According to Bender, in later testimony, the meeting was somewhat informal and there were military people also present. Himmler sought to change the law so that an investigator could be later a prosecutor once the accused was caught and put on trial. Later, Bender chose not to comment on what Himmler's motives were and why those present were making changes to the criminal justice system. Another point Himmler wanted was to use prisoners in the armaments industry. Bender claimed that Jews, Hungarians, Poles, Ukrainians, Russians, security detainees and prisoners who had been sentenced by a court were mentioned. Therak agreed with Himmler's proposal, but Rottenberger opposed it. Bender claimed that he could not remember everything in his post-war interrogation. One thing he seems to have forgotten in the context of the meeting was under point 2, and was, and now I quote, extradition of antisocial elements from the penal system to the Reichsführer SS for extermination through labour. Those in preventative detention, Jews, Gypsies, Russians and Ukrainians, Poles serving more than 3 years sentences, Czechs or Germans serving more than 8 years sentences, will all be handed over in full according to the decision of the Reich Minister of Justice. What this means is that anyone in these racial groups having been sentenced to 3 or 8 years or more could effectively be murdered. Bender later claimed that no mention of extermination came up in the meeting of the 18th of September 1942. Himmler and Third Reich met again the following day, and in secret, and Bender claimed that the question of murder probably came up then, and that when interrogated after the war, Third Reich mistakenly claimed it was said the previous day. In any case, Bender said that he had no access to concentration camps, although he had visited Oranienburg concentration camp in 1935 and Dachau in 1938. Bender could of course easily blame Third Reich. By the time of his statement, the former Justice Minister was dead, having committed suicide on the 26th of October 1946. Bender rose to the rank of SS-Oberführer in the Waffen-SS in January 1945, the highest rank he would achieve before the collapse of Nazi Germany. The rank of SS-Oberführer has no military equivalent. It is between that of SS-Standartenführer, which is roughly equivalent of colonel, and that of SS-Brigadeführer, which had the Wehrmacht equivalent of Generalmajor, and which in the UK would be a brigadier or one-star general in the United States. It's of course very difficult to give an equivalent of ranks between one service and another, and from one country to another. Following the liberation of Germany, it didn't take the Americans very long to find Bender. He was arrested by US Army soldiers on the 17th of May 1945. This is Hammelburg in Lower Franconia. This is one of the places where Bender was held in US custody. Whilst he was here, his denazification proceedings were held at the Hammelburg internment camp, part of a huge prisoner of war complex which had first been put into use in the Franco-Prussian War, then World War I and World War II, and its use was continued by the US occupation authorities. Bender was classified as a fellow traveller and given a 1,200 Deutschmark fine. The Nuremberg jurist trial was the third of the 12 subsequent Nuremberg trials against officials of Nazi Germany. It was held from the 5th of March 1947 until the 4th December 1947 to try professional lawyers for their activities under the Hitler regime. The subject of the trial was the enactment and enforcement of the terror laws, particularly those relating to the territories occupied by Nazi Germany, which imposed numerous death sentences on those deemed to be enemies of the Nazi system. One might have thought that Bender could have been one of the accused, but as of this date there appears to have been nothing to have charged him with in particular. He was fortunate that much of the paperwork from the SS courts had been destroyed in the bombing. In July 1947, Bender provided what he later described as an answer around 1 page long to Herr Auerbach regarding the fate of the Socials. Bender was released from US custody on the 1st of May 1948 and went to live in Rottach in Upper Bavaria, close to the Austrian border and not so far from the former home of his boss, Heinrich Himmler. He was not yet out of trouble. The German legal system still wanted to talk to him. He was interrogated by the public prosecutor in Wiesbaden, and his statement of the 9th of August 1948 can be found in the archives of the Institute for Contemporary History in Munich. This archive has been digitalized, and if you want to read it, you can put the protocol of the interrogation of Horst Bender into the search engine. This is the source of a lot of information contained in this presentation. Horst Bender effectively got away with it. Obviously, giving a legal opinion on a matter is something lawyers do all the time, and one may take the opinion that it is not something which should be punished. However, given his role as head of Department 3 at the Reichsführer SS Command Staff, and the dreadful crimes committed by this organization, which were described in detail by Erich von den Bach-Zelewski in post-war trials. A lot has been written of the desk murderers, people who just shuffled papers around on a desk dealing with deportations and killings. Horst Bender was what I would call an enabler of the desk murderers, and the West German authorities took the opinion that he was too far from the killings to be a suitable person to be tried for them. After an initial period of unemployment after the war, Bender became a lawyer in Stuttgart. He died there on the 8th of November 1987. I have a feeling that if he'd survived long enough to see the reunification of Germany, then his case might have come up again. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you found that interesting. I upload every day at 2000 hours. That's 2000 my time, Central European time, because I'm based in Poland and in Germany. I upload longer videos such as this one on Fridays. On the other days, it's normally a shorter video, although I sometimes do live presentations and they may take considerably more time and go into considerably more detail. If you're interested to know what I'm uploading, then you might want to subscribe, and if you press the bell, ding ding, you'll also be reminded of what is coming up. So, thanks very much for watching, and bye for now.